So as of January the 1st, World Rugby is going to try and speed up the game, have less reliance on the TMO, fewer water carriers, penalise negative actions, get clarity on deliberate knock-ons. What could go wrong? And I thought you were going to score.
Ask a better question, you get a better answer.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these directives about speeding the game up, saying that referees must strictly adhere to current laws such as the conversion, where they have 90 seconds to take the kick from the time the try is awarded. We'll come back to that. And with a penalty kick, they've got 1 minute 60 seconds from the time they indicate they're going to kick at goal, not from the time the penalty is given. Now, what's going to be good here is that there's going to be an actual countdown clock, so the ref doesn't have to time it themselves. It's going to be in the stadium, it's going to be on the TV, it's going to be quite exciting. One question for you guys, does the kick actually happen from when the run-up starts or from when the ball is struck? So when does that clock run out? That's an interesting one. Let me know what you think there. But definitely it's going to add more pressure on the kicker and it's going to make the game more exciting. Now in rugby, the kind of rule of thumb etiquette is you respect the kicker and you're quietish for when the kick happens. Not that that's always observed, but with the shot clock, that could throw that all out the window. I can imagine the crowd getting louder and louder as the clock runs down, and from 10 seconds out, I can imagine some sort of countdown going on. So let me know if you think that's going to happen, but it's certainly going to be more interesting. I think it's generally a good thing. I'd like to see it. And the other thing I thought of with the try conversion is that 90 seconds starts from when the try is awarded, the whistle is blown from the ref. So if you're going to celebrate, that's going to eat into the 90 seconds. And it's going to be interesting to see if teams get penalised, as in the kicker runs out of time or they're rushed after their celebration. So I'd like to see that one, but there's no real way around it for the teams because this clock is going to be in the stadium and on the TVs, so it's not at the ref's discretion. Now, there is another law saying that players must not waste time and the sanction's a free kick. This one is much more subjective. We think back to that Bernard Foley incident when he took a long time to take his penalty kick to touch and he was penalised. So referees are going to have to get their heads together and really nail down what is time wasting, because that one's going to be tricky to get consistent. I can see that one being a bit of a can of worms. Now, another law that World Rugby want enforced more strictly is 18.12 in the lineout, where teams must form that lineout without delay, sanction being the free kick. Now, all teams pretty much delay lineouts, be it a massive conference beforehand if it's your ball trying to work out what the throw is, or maybe just a really slow walk into the lineout, or both. So refs are going to have to be very brave and consistent on this one, because I think they could penalise almost any lineout at the moment. So this one's going to be very interesting to say the least. And then the same thing in scrums, law 19.4, teams must be ready to form the scrum within 30 seconds of the mark being made. Goodness me, I don't know if there's many scrums that are formed within 30 seconds, although I was watching a game back from the 1980s where players literally bind up instantly without the referee having to say anything when the scrum's awarded. That was pretty interesting, and the difference between then and today is massive. And at the moment, players kind of see the scrum as a bit of a break, time to take a rest, take on water, so that could really put the cat amongst the pigeons if they have to be ready to form within 30 seconds. Again, timekeeping. Who's keeping the time on these things for this one? Not too sure. Let me know if you've heard how that one's going to be kept time on. Then we've got a directive saying they want less reliance on the TMO, trying to speed the game up. When things are clear and obvious, they want more decisions taken on the pitch, which is fine. But of course, you're going to get slightly more mistakes when you do it like that. So fans are going to have to decide what they want. Do they want that faster game with a few more mistakes, or do they want more to go to the TMO with less mistakes? You can't have your cake and eat it on that one. But certainly want to limit the number of TMOs, so I imagine a few more controversies coming up because of that, but that's going to be interesting to see what sort of balance they strike there. And it also looks like World Rugby want to implement this new law trial that's been going on where fewer water carriers are allowed on the pitch, so it's limited to 2, reducing the number of times they can come onto the pitch and when they can come onto pitch. They want them to come on when there's kicks happening, kicks at goal, so natural breaks where they wouldn't be slowing down the game if they came on. If there's a game where there's not many tries, which isn't so much these days, then obviously they can come on at other breaks in play, but they only want them to come on when there's a natural break with a kick ideally. So that'll be interesting because teams have been using water carriers to get lots of messages on. Obviously hydration is important as well, so that's a point to discuss, but coaches are going to have to work out a workaround, which I'm sure they will, getting players some messages on the pitch. It's going to be interesting to see how they do that, or is it going to be the poor wingers just being the messengers from messages from the sideline? We'll see how coaches get around that one. Then we had a bit from World Rugby on trying to crack down on negative player actions, like deliberately trying to milk penalties by trapping players in rucks, those sorts of things, or time wasting by holding the ball or walking off with the ball or rolling it away. All these things that players have done for quite a long time now. That's going to be interesting to see if they can referee these habits out of players. I mean, certain things they haven't been able to referee out of games, like teams still coach standing up in tackles. We're still getting lots of upright tackles, so they haven't been able to get that habit out of the game. Will they be able to get these sorts of cute ways of getting penalties and wasting time out of the game? That's going to be interesting. Let me know what you think. Then we've got our old friend, the deliberate knock-on. That's been a hot topic recently. So let's have a look at the rules. 11.3 says a player must not intentionally knock the ball forward. The word being intentionally. And the sanction for an intentional knock-on is a penalty. And of course, if it stops a try, it could be a penalty try and a yellow card as well. So that's pretty big there. Now, Law 11.4 says it's not an intentional knock-on if they're trying to reasonably catch the ball and they knock it on. And that's really hard to judge. They want refs to show good judgment in doing this, players endeavouring to catch the ball, but what is endeavouring to catch the ball and what is deliberate? So let's talk a bit about interceptions. Now, as a player, I actually went for quite a lot of interceptions, being a wide out player, normally a winger. And often you want to go for an interception when you can see the player is not looking at you. You're kind of blindsiding them, if you like. And ideally, you time it where you just get in their passing lane and the ball just plops into the breadbasket and away you go. I mean, that is ideal. But there's other ways of doing it as well. If you haven't quite got the timing spot on, sticking out one hand is actually a pretty good way of doing it. You kind of make the ball kind of stick on your hand or bounce up and then grab it and go. You get lots of interceptions that way. So this idea of going with one hand, I don't quite buy it when they say going with one hand is not an intention to catch the ball. Do you have your hand up or down? Yeah, okay. So if your hand's down and you're pushing it down, I think that's pretty easy. But hand sideways is quite a good way of doing it, making the ball stick and then catching it, or even knocking it up in the air and then catching it. That is an intention to catch the ball as well. So this idea of reaching with two hands, I'm not buying it. It's pretty unnatural. If you're running at pace, to stick both hands out really mucks up your running style. You'd either try and get it into your breadbasket, if you like, or stick out one hand and then catch it with the other. So I think refs are going to have to talk to players who do lots of interceptions to try and work out what looks like a genuine interception chance. Anyway, I'll stop there, but let me know what you think is an intentional knock-on and what is a reasonable intention to catch the ball as well and intercept it. Okay, so I've put a summary of the directive of the laws they're looking at on the side of the existing laws, of some of the new law trials. How are refs going to do on this? Is it going to improve the game? What are the potential problems? It's a good debate to have. Anyway, guys, get in the comments below, let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time.